This is coffee number 5. I'm your host, Lara Schmoisman. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to coffee number 5. And today I'm going to be a little bit myself. And I'm going to be talking about my challenges as a woman. I had a lot of challenges. I'm not only a woman, I'm Latina. This conversation is extremely personal. And I'm so happy today to have Ashley Louise. Welcome here to coffee number 5. And she is one of the founders of Ladies Get Paid. Claire was with us a few years back, but I think it's super relevant to have Ashley today with us. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So Ashley, I know that you met Claire in the early stages of Ladies Get Paid.
Mm-hmm.
You guys found that there was really a need for a community. And we were talking about this before the podcast, and there are things that are not expected that a woman is capable of.
We're undervalued.
We are undervalued. That's a good word.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have to say, like, even in the other side, now that I have my marketing agency, there are a lot of things that they are said about me because I'm a woman. If I would be a man, I would be assertive. If I'm a woman, it's like woman and being a boss. She's a bitch. There is a lot of labeling about women in power and empowering roles.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of thoughts on how women should be in the workplace. And I think that comes from every direction, right? You have the side that is women shouldn't work at all. They should be at home. And then you have the side that thinks, women aren't fit for leadership positions, or they are worthless, and then we get paid less. And then, there's kind of the other side of that, where sometimes people get a little too prescriptive about how, let's say, assertive women are about their careers, right? I think we're in a time when everyone has a lot of opinions on what women should and shouldn't be doing. And I think the most important thing for us, or one of the most important things that we really try to do with Ladies Get Paid and how we talk to our community and women and how we teach them, is we want to give you the framework to figure out what your ideal work and life look like, right? Like, there are some women who want to go all the way in. They want to run their own business. They want to be the CEO. We want to help put you on that track. There are some women who don't. They want to have a good job. They want to get paid well, but they want to take a little more time off. There are some women who don't want to work. There are some women who want to run their own businesses and some women who don't. And, for me, I think in a lot of ways, everyone's trying to find the one right answer. And I think the actual right answer is that it's different for everybody. And at the end of the day, we should just support everyone for the work life that they want.
I was talking at a conference a few months back, and this was in woman empowerment, and which I'm totally okay empowering women, but I think every individual, and we're living, there's so much complaint that you're not being inclusive. So we need to be treating women as something the same as men. I'm not saying empowering women. And the question for me was, what are you planning to do to empower women or to be nicer to women this year? And I was like, I'm not. I'm going to be trying to be a nicer person and to treat everyone equally. And I think that's what we are not making the right separation. It's not women are better than men. We're individuals, and who you are, and you deserve to be where you are, whatever your gender is.
Yes. I mean, I do think that traditionally women are not elevated the way men are, right? Men have an easier time raising money for their companies. Men get more press coverage. Men are interviewed more often, right? So I do think that the ultimate goal is for everybody to be equal, right? Or have equal opportunity.
Absolutely.
That does mean, though, like women are starting out lower, right? So you need to put more effort into elevating women because most people just don't. But that's an entirely different thing than like how you treat a person or if you're nice to someone or not, right? Like there's nothing wrong with men. They're there. Life is much easier for them. That's a reality, right? So it's like, what's the tactic to level that out? But at the end of the day, yes. And you know what? I do want to be treated equally to men. Like, give me the man salary, right? Like, let's
Exactly.
do that.
Exactly. But it's also, I think it depends from us that if we require, we want, that's a goal, to be treated equally. There is something we need to do also to act equally and not to demand the difference just because we're a woman, just to demand because these are my skills, not because
Yes.
we're a woman.
Yeah. And I think the issue is even when we do show our skills and when we do well, it is not evaluated as having the same value than if a man did it. And that's like the real thing in there.
Do
That
you, do you think that is something that is ingrained in the women that we are not? And this is something that I've been working a lot on myself too, that maybe it's not me demanding to get more. It's something that is ingrained culturally that I should accept less.
um I think it's that we feel, women, if we are not getting it, then we don't deserve it. And that's not true.
I
Right? It's, the same thing about, I mean, it's not the case anymore, but, it used to be that women didn't negotiate their salary as often,
Yeah.
right? Women actually negotiate more now than men do. But, there is that kind of, and I think this probably still applies to getting promoted, where if they felt like I should be promoted, they would promote me. And that's just not the case, right? If you want a promotion, you have to ask for a promotion. And no
Exactly.
one's going to hand anything to you, which is shown. And now women are negotiating their salaries more, right? But I think that, especially because, only 22% of women make it past a middle management position, right? So the people who are making these decisions and who are giving all the feedback are all men. And if men inherently are undervaluing women's work, women are getting these signals in their workplaces constantly that their work and their talents are less than they actually are valued at. And that's, again, another thing that we really try and hammer home with women is this is one of those times when I like to say, like, use your brain. We always say, write down all your accomplishments, right? Like, if you do something really awesome at work, big success, like move the needle for your company, like objectively, you did a great job. We say keep it in a brag folder, right? And that's the place where you keep your wins. And so then, this is something that happened to me. I showed up at Ladies Get Paid. Claire had started it a few months before I met her. And I had found out that the man that I replaced at my job made twice as much money than me, like literally twice as much. And I just kind of internalized that. And I was like, wow, like he must be twice as good as me. He was not. Like he just was not. Like I had objective data points to show me that I actually was accomplishing more than him. Right. And it took me doing that exercise of actually looking at his results versus mine to then say to myself, okay, just because this company has assigned us these two different values does not mean that they're correct. And that's when I negotiated my salary, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
here's my receipts,
Yeah.
right? And so much of it is like our society is built in a way where men are valued more. Like that's just objectively true. We almost have to like de-brainwash ourselves to be able to understand your value outside of what your workplace tells you it is.
There is something else I want to add about this because I feel like a lot of people feel like they only can grow professional and negotiate their salary or the position if they get into management. And I'm a truly believer that not everyone is built to do management, and it shouldn't be the only way you grow. Like, for example, if you're a designer, you can have an amazing career as a designer and head designer, but you shouldn't be necessarily be a manager. Doesn't mean that you're going to be a good manager. So I think that there is a preconception also that the only way to grow is to be managerial.
Yeah. Yes, and that's how the majority of companies are structured, right? Like, it's very challenging to work at a company and continue to move up and be an individual contributor. Like, that's just the truth. And it's almost like, got to go do your own thing. And I do wonder if kind of the proliferation of remote work and how much easier it is to run a business online and like connect with clients not in your immediate vicinity will allow more people to start working for themselves. And just, creative fields are a great example of that, where you just want to make cool stuff and you want to be able to do more of it and bigger projects.
Yeah.
But why does that have to include managing people? And a lot of people have really bad managers.
I know that, but I also understand that people accept or try to get these managerial positions because it's the only way to grow.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think we need to work on change too. That
Yes.
the companies understand that you can grow and you can bring a lot to the table. And I'm going to put the designer again as an example. Like, this design did this for the company. You can show results. You can show data in any kind of work that you do.
And that's the most important thing, is finding the data.
Yes,
absolutely. Right. And that goes back to, my point of like the brag folder. It's like, have your data. Data doesn't lie, exactly. Like they are. And that's the best way to overcome imposter syndrome, right? It's like, find the evidence and convince yourself, or find evidence that does convince you.
I'm going to tell you something personal. A few weeks ago, I was nominated for LA Times Inspirational Woman, which
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's an honor. And I just mentioned it to someone casually because I was really proud of myself. I know that a lot of people get there and not everyone gets chosen. And I have a rule: I never pay for media. If they want to interview me, I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to answer anything, but that's my rule. I don't pay for media. And this person told me, you're so good and getting those things. And that got me thinking. I didn't say anything at that time. I just smiled, but I was like, I'm not so good at getting those things. I deserve them. I work really hard for them. And it feels great to be acknowledged.
There is something to be said in there, though, that you're doing your job of advocating for yourself well.
Yes.
Like, people don't just hand things out. If you want something, you need to go and make the most effective case for why you should get it, and you do, right? And you have the evidence to back that up.
Exactly. And those things really help your growth and your it's authority.
It doing your job.
Yeah, it's bring your authority. And that's something that everyone needs to learn how to do for their own performance. You need to get the respect and authority of showing that you're doing your job well.
Yes.
But let's talk about reality, because sometimes this is all wonderful and we all work hard. And I know many women that they work hard, but also there is the other side of being a woman. And that comment came from a woman. Women sometimes are bitchy. So women sometimes don't support another woman's. And I have to tell you that the worst experiences I had with clients when I started the agency were women from women's communities, that there were women taking advantage of women. So there is a lot to be said about that too.
As we've said before, women and men in a lot of ways are not equal, but in some ways we are the same, and it's human nature is the way that it is. And the thing, my rule of thumb, and I learned this when I used to be a political organizer, my like first job out of college. And, the rule was spend your time with people who you're already aligned with and don't
Mhm.
waste your time with people who aren't, and
Absolutely.
I am a very strong believer of just like, if something doesn't make me feel good, I cut it out.
Exactly.
Life is too short,
I learned to be the same way, but I know also women, we are very sensitive to when we get these messages.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I think, and also it's a great part, an exercise that we need to do as individuals, or put distance of those situations or those personalities that it doesn't help us grow.
Yeah, I just cut them out.
Yeah, well, but
And that's I think this probably applies more for people and women who run their own companies or like have clients, right? I think women have a much more challenging time saying no to things than
yeah.
men do, right? So it's like, at the end of the day, you got to make money. You need clients. We've all got our bills to pay. And, you know, I've a handful of times said, this doesn't feel good, but I'm just going to suck it up for the money, right? Like that's business. The times when I found that felt the most icky were some of the worst professional experiences I've ever had in my
Yes.
life, right? Like if it doesn't feel right in the beginning, that's the best it's ever going to feel.
It's that first impression. It's like, that even you try to say, no, I cannot say something without knowing that person, but
yeah. And
it's
it's the
always
same,
go back to you.
and it's the same thing, interviewing for a job, right? If you're trying to find a new job. I have a client the other day who was really, she was interviewing at a very prestigious company, right? But her experience in the recruitment process, she just really didn't like. And she was having a hard time accepting the fact that she could say no to a job offer, right? Like the way the interview is,
It's
again.
hard. It's hard to say no when we're also talking about money. If you have a good offer, and it's something that I had to work myself as an agency, is like, is this
Mm-hmm.
client really someone I want to get as a client? Is this aligned with my values? Because there's a point that it's gonna be a friction, and it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna, if you're not aligned, and if you cannot work, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all relative, of course, right? Your point of it's money. Like, if you literally have to say yes to pay your bills and keep the lights on, like, yeah, you got to suck it up. But if that's not the case, you also have to think of the opportunity cost then of you're going to be spending this time either with a client or at a job that's not aligned with you. You miss the opportunity to get a client that is aligned with you and your work will be better or a
Exactly.
better job, right? Like there's an opportunity cost there.
It is. And I believe the opportunities are there. It's just
Right.
us going and to look for it.
Yes. You
And,
have to
and
ask for it.
I think as a woman, it's really hard to put ourselves out there. I think this all social media will change a little, but it's very different to put yourself out there in social media than having to put yourself out there work-wise.
Yes. Because we so intrinsically tie our value as a human to our jobs.
Yep.
Because we live in America.
But even not living in America, it's like you have to. I accept it. I'm a workaholic. I love my job. I love my clients. I love my team. But also, it's about respect to myself and respect to my team and my clients, to put those boundaries. My clients text me on a Sunday. Is this an emergency? No. So you can wait until tomorrow. You don't have to answer immediately. It's
Which
not going to
again,
make.
it reiterates that almost scarcity mode feeling of like not saying no, can't set a boundary. I'm so like grateful for having this opportunity where not all opportunities are good ones.
How do you get out of that thought system? How do you work to get out of it?
might answer this question differently. My answer to this question
But this is actually not clear.
No, I know. And this is the difference between the two of us. Again, I kind of like to use your brain here. If something obviously doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, you just have to put your big girl pants on and you got to set the boundary and you got to say no. Like, and at the end of the day, you're the only person getting hurt here, right? Like, don't make your own life harder. The world is going to throw so much shit at you to make your life hard. Don't be a part of that.
Yeah.
You know, like, make decisions. Look, the right decision is not always easy, right? Oftentimes the right decision are hard and you have to just suck it up and make a hard decision that's good for you.
I call these uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
And you can have uncomfortable conversations with people, but sometimes you need to have those uncomfortable conversations with yourself.
Yeah. You know, and we talk about that with salary negotiation too, right?
Yeah.
Or talking about money, right? People are like, oh, it just like feels so uncomfortable. And I say to them, is $20,000, like, are you willing to pay $20,000 maybe to not be uncomfortable for 10 minutes? Because that's like really what that amounts to, right? If you're like not negotiating your salary, or if you're not asking, you don't feel comfortable asking someone how much money they make, so you know how much to negotiate for. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. Are you willing to make $20,000 less to avoid discomfort? I'm like, yeah, you have to get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. But how do you know how much you're worth?
You do your research, right? It's like, it's data, right? If you are either doing a salary negotiation or if you're like negotiating with a client, do market research, right? Like, talk to other people. There are people who do similar things to you in the world, right? Ask them.
Yeah,
You know,
you're not that unique.
No one is special.
Exactly.
Like, you're special, but no one is. Like, there are billions of people on the earth, right? There are other people who do the same thing as you, right? And they are all data points. We're all special. We're also all just data here, right? And I mean, the thing I will always say 100%, if you're trying to figure out how much money to negotiate your salary for, or if you're pitching a client and you want to know how much to charge for, always ask white men. White men statistically always get paid more, and they always sell through higher deal values. They get higher loans. They get better rates. Always ask the white men. They always have the best financial situations. Statistically, this is like not a funny little bit. Statistically, they make more money. So always ask them, unless you want to keep making less money than white men.
And then they are to go for that. Don't be afraid to ask for less.
Yeah.
But also be honest with yourself. Do you have the experience that that person has? Do you
Right, and that's why you ask relevant people.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not going to charge as much as like Bob Iger.
Sometimes I see, and okay, you're about to be a mother, and we have an life change when you're a parent. And there is that perception that, oh, she's going to have kids. So with the kids, she's not going to be able to work that hard, or everything is going to change. And yeah, things are going to be changing, but I took one day off with each one of my kids and I was back to work. Maybe my schedule was a little different, but I was able to accomplish my work. But the perception is still there.
Yeah. And I mean, I think women should be able to take a lot of time off after they have a kid, or rather, if they want to do that, they should be able to, right? Like, we have a absolutely abominable paid family leave policy in America, right? Like 2 weeks. Some people don't even get anything.
I didn't take anything. I couldn't afford that back then.
You know, but it's crazy, right? But like, everyone should be able to do what they want. But at the end of the day, we make it so difficult for mothers and fathers, right? Like, I think the number one thing to change this perception here is for men to take their full paternity leave, right? A lot of men don't. And if men start doing it, then it's not weird. right? But
maybe, but I think the fear comes that if you take a long time, then when you come back, your position can be different. Or
right. But that's, I'm going to try not to use the F bomb, but it's effed up. Like life is life. Yeah, our jobs are important, but we work to live, yeah. And that's your family. And that's the important thing. I mean, yeah, I talk to women all the time who are going through this, and they're just like, I gave birth 2 weeks ago. I got to go do a speaking gig. It's like, if you want to do that, that's fine. But the rightful insecurity, right? Like it's not unfounded. And it just, again, is about a lot of uncomfortable conversations.
do you think that this is changing, that we are training our kids to be different?
Yes.
And this is changing for the generations to come?
Yes. I think, there's a lot of conversations about, Gen Z, this whole like, they don't want to work thing. And I think something that is changing a lot right now, and I think the pandemic upended work so profoundly that we aren't even scratching the surface of the long-term changes of how work will work. But I think the employee-employer relationship has changed profoundly, and I don't think the employers know that yet, right? Look, I'm not advocating for anyone to like be bad at their job or to not do the things they need to do at work, right? Like you should do your job well. But I think what's happening is really people aren't getting paid enough. They're not feeling like they're getting paid enough to do the work that is being expected of them, right? Like a lot of people are, I'm not going to say struggling, but like
are we talking specific about Z-Gens here, or are we talking in general?
No, I think they are the strongest cohort of doing this, but I also of course see it among like my peers who are millennials also, where it's like, no, I'm not going to work on the weekend. Like you don't pay me enough to like do this right now. Like the person I was talking to who's going to turn down that job offer, she said they were telling her, like, yeah, we have a lot of people, like this guy like had to take a nap in his car on the way home from work over the weekend because he stayed at the office for 2 days. And it was like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? And I think and I think a lot of that comes from younger generations, right? Like are learning more about advocating for themselves and like what's appropriate and what's not to be asked at your job based on how much you're being paid.
Yes, I agree with that. But also I realize that companies are struggling right now, and they're even struggling to keep jobs. And there is a higher demand that everyone wants more and more. And they think that because there is a perception, I wish that we all can have more. I wish everyone can have the economy at home that they want to have. But the companies during the recession, many times they cannot afford that. So there is this.
Can't afford, like I agree, but I think, but this is what I mean, right? Like it's all in this weird flux right now of everything being very different, right? And it doesn't, at the end of the day, the things that don't help are like groceries and gas are twice as expensive as they were last year, like it's a very complex scenario. And I think it will continue to be for a while.
It will. And at the end of the day, you need to do what is right for you.
Yeah.
And those are the decisions that we need to make as an individuals. And I understand sometimes you need the money. And you also need to understand that there are different times of your life. And in different time of your life, you're going to say, okay, I can do this for the money right now. And then later I will be able to change it. And which is, it's okay to accept that too. And to understand that this is just a stage of your life, accepting certain things, and then you're going to be able to move on.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, everyone's just trying to do the best they can for the most part. And like, there are so many options now, right? Like, I think that's also why more people are working for themselves.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I can do this myself is the thing a lot of people are choosing now. I mean, both of us, right? We own our own businesses.
We're both. But also I learn a lot from working for others. And I don't think I will be where I am today if I wouldn't have those experiences.
Exactly. Right. And it's all everybody's choice. You know?
Exactly. But so my point is that never give for granted anything that you have. And I am a strong believer that everything that you decide to do in your life, you learn something from it.
That's the right way to look at it, because then you never make a mistake.
Even if you make a mistake, it's your mistake and it's something that you had to learn from it.
Right.
It is. Ashley, thank you so much for having coffee with me today. It was such a pleasure to talk
Cheers.
to you. Cheers.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to keep talking about and advocating for people to get paid what they deserve to get paid and to learn how to negotiate.
Yes. And, if you want to learn more about us at Ladies Get Paid, you want to negotiate your salary or get a promotion, ladiesgetpaid.com/subscribe. You can check out our newsletter and follow me on LinkedIn if you want some more tips. And we are very excited to help you get paid more.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And to you guys, I will see you next week with more coffee number 5. Find everything you need at larashmoisman.com or in the episode notes right below. Don't forget to subscribe. It was so good to have you here today. See you next time. Catch you on the flip side. Ciao, ciao. What I love about the beauty industries is that there is always room to grow. I love to learn more about innovation, possibilities of investment, and partnerships across the industries. If you want to learn more, join me at Beauty Connect this November 6 to 8 in Los Angeles.